Coin traders, what's going on? Thanks for joining me for the show, looking at Bitcoin Cash, BCH on that ticker. Last time covering Bitcoin Cash was about 3 weeks ago, so a lot of things to talk about, especially after on the last video, we talked about what happens to Bitcoin Cash after the halving and post-halving. Now, we didn't see the same thing out of Bitcoin like we saw for Bitcoin Cash, but that's fine since we do have Bitcoin Cash acting as an altcoin and following along with most of the altcoin space. So actually to only see a pullback for this trend at about 38%, less than 40% when most altcoins were seeing 40 to 50 to 60% pullbacks and retracements, still pretty good sign overall for Bitcoin Cash, especially when we do have a lot of lower supports actually maintaining. So first one right now, 449 right below the 450 level. And this is kind of a big zone to where we actually had the close coming in actually just shy of about 463. So as we can see from this area, big point of a long lower shadows from here. So we actually didn't have any closes, but yet we did see price wicking down. Now, if we look at price level support, actually dipping down a little bit more, and we actually have our low coming in right now for the trend on this pullback at 44383. Now, so unfortunately, we lost exponential moving average support on this daily and have flipped it now into resistance. So big point of resistance and then resistance here after flipping support on the 50 period EMA, but still finding resistance here on the 12 and 26. So big point of resistance, finally pulling back below the 50 once again. But it's more important to actually be able to maintain a price zone of support than actually be worrying about exponential moving average resistances and support. Although they're both extremely important, right now we're mainly focused on price level zone support. So also want to look left a little bit more and talk about where we are seeing the price level resistance come in for this move before the trend high when we had a lot of the post-halving excitement and hype. So very relevant point of resistance as well. So very nice to see this flipping and confirming right now so far, especially over all this period of time, to still be support, and we're looking at a period of defense for 17 bars. So over 2 weeks of support on this zone is a good sign. Now, like we said, are starting to see lower highs come in and also resistance on this exponential moving average zone. So even if on the current candle, we do confirm support and see a little bit more upside, we're still going to fight heavily with a lot of these exponential moving averages that are flipping bearish right now. So as you can see, did get the bearish cross below with the 12 crossing below the 50. Already got the bearish cross between the 12 and 26 here. So all we are waiting on now is just the 26 to actually roll over below the 50 before Bitcoin Cash is in a full bearish type formation. So in addition to that, also have a pretty significant trend line that we're looking at, and trend lines are going to be pretty significant as well, because especially as we can see, did provide it as support before finally breaking below this level, and then resistance and resistance once again. So heavy resistance up overhead with the combined exponentials, the downside trend, and then also up overhead with price levels. We're actually going to be looking at a resistance point coming in at just above the $500 psychological, all the way up to where we saw closing level resistance and price level resistance up to about 530. So realistically, we're not necessarily in the most bullish looking setup with price and path of least resistance to the upside, because we are on the downside, unfortunately, of a lot of these big resistance zones that were previous support and also have confirmed a lot of them as resistance. So really would need to see a lot of bullish upside breaking through this level and pretty much getting above 530. If we can see the Bitcoin Cash price get above 530, that is pretty much going to be one of the bullish signs for a continuation to the upside, because otherwise we're pretty much going to get stuck in this zone where we're going to expect a lot more downside pressure until we actually get above that 530 level. Now, so if we do look at this downtrend resistance line as well as the support lines, we're actually forming a descending triangle, which is a bearish leaning pattern. So likely we would expect a little bit more downside pressure to break through the support zone. So if we do in fact break through the support zone down below 443, we are going to experience a lot more lower lows on this trend and likely get down to about 358 to potentially down to 348. But one of the things that you can see on this chart is pretty much just an overall decrease in selling pressure. So especially after coming off this major pullback, not necessarily getting that much, that is typical for a consolidation type pattern where we actually don't experience much volume. So if we do get an influx of bearish volume, that will likely push through prices down below 449, 443, and then down to test the support zone like we talked about at 358 to 348. Now, flipping over to the weekly chart, a lot of good things still in a setup pattern for Bitcoin Cash right now, specifically looking at 12-period EMA support. And the thing about this right now is that we've actually tested and confirmed this level as support for multiple attempts. So we have been riding it ever since we have started to form this trend, had our little breakout, pulled back on this flag, back tested it, kicked off this level, back tested 12, and then obviously confirming back tested of that 12 as well after this very nice growth to the upside. And one of the things to specifically look at here is the overall decrease in bearish volume on all of these pullback attempts. So we actually saw more bearish volume here on these inside bars. And so again, you can see they're inside bars because we actually had a very nice bullish bar that had a very solid and wide price trading. And then the week after, price trading inside that range. And then the week following that, price trading inside that range as well. So now we did get a little bit of a bearish breakout compared to the previous price trading, but since we did kick off the 12-period EMA and actually saw follow through from the bulls, along with that, very nice increasing week over week bullish volume on this candle, leading us up to the current trend high, seeking up to the Bitcoin Cash halving. And now on this retracement, a complete lack of follow through for the Bitcoin Cash bears. And one of the significant things about it too is that we do have a lot of these long lower shadows just showing a lot of that dip buying. So you can see, especially with week over week decreasing volume, and obviously the current weekly candle just started, so not a lot of volume or confirmation of price as well. So the three previous bearish bars though is what we're mainly looking at, and still maintain closing support on top of the 12-period weekly EMA. Now on this weekly chart too, since we're talking about downside shadows, did have a lot of downside shadows on this attempt as well. So every time we do get a lot of selling pressure coming in, we actually have a lot of dip buying pressure as well, which is why we don't have a lot of candles without extreme downside shadows. Now the candle that just closed is probably one of those ones, but it also had the most minimal bear volume out of the three previous bearish volumes that we did see week over week. So now on this weekly, do want to zoom out quite a bit and actually talk about where we're sitting, because looking left, you can see how we're pretty much sitting on top of these previous levels of resistance coming off the bounce back in December of 2018. And from there, I actually saw prices kind of sitting along this big heart line where we kind of went more or less overall chop, and this did lead us into the peak of the 2021 cycle where we saw Bitcoin Cash get up to a high of 1642. So price potential is there, especially holding this type of formation. Now, if we look at the chart pattern overall, still had a very big pullback, big period of accumulation, obviously had a nice little spike here, but more or less this was still a big accumulation point. And so now, like a lot of cryptos, we are still setting up for a phase D, and hopefully and likely in a lot of instances, we'll be looking for a very nice phase E breakout on this type of chart setup after a very nice long accumulation period. So structure right now in no way of breaking on this weekly chart, still looks extremely nice. And even if we do lose 12-period EMA support, we're still looking at confirmation of 26-period EMA. And so even on this previous chart, we've been holding 12-period EMA support this whole time. So we know that even if we do lose 12-period EMA support, we are going to be eyeing 26 as well without breaking any sort of the longer-term weekly structure here. Now, I do want to talk about the retracement and pullback, because like we said, it's actually not that significant of a retracement and pullback given what we saw out of the rest of crypto. So right now, like we said, less than 40%, about 38. And right now we did switch over into the 2-day chart as well. So just want to talk about very nice support between 26 and 50-period EMAs. Resistance still coming in between 12 and 26 though. So do need to see that level break, and ideally we would see that hopefully before we get this bearish cross on the exponential moving averages. So want to look at a Fibonacci retracement from the low where we're looking about 350 all the way up to the current trend high at about 720. So you can see right now that we did find a lot of support coming in for Bitcoin Cash so far in between the 61.8% and 78.3% retracement lines on this Fibonacci. With that also means resistance is coming in heavy across this big zone, as we have seen plenty between 61.8 and the 50% Fibonacci retracement. So if we can get above the Fibonacci 50% retracement like we talked about, which is pretty much over the 530 line, then that's pretty much going to be our indication that we're going to likely experience a lot more upside pressure, since that will be breaking above a lot of the resistive targets and a lot of the points that would be cause for concern. So if we do get above 530, then I would expect a full and nice rally to head up and test the current trend high. And whether or not we do break it, we would find out in that instance. So 530 is definitely the target that we're going to be looking for from the bullish side. But I think out of a lot of other cryptos and altcoins, we probably have seen about close to the bottom, as we will see on this pullback and retracement, without either a longer period of chop or a little bit more upside push and direction as well. So overall, not expecting a lot of bullish things in the coming days and weeks here for Bitcoin Cash. But like we said, if we do get a little bit more upside pump from the rest of the altcoin and crypto space, then I would expect that to rub off fully on a Bitcoin Cash and see a little bit more upside direction. But for now, still holding a plenty big level of support down to about 444, with the closing level of support for the daily coming in at about 464. So maintaining this level of support with a lot of these downside shadows is extremely good sign for the bulls, but obviously no guarantee that that won't break at some point. So that's the big zone to the downside that we do have to be extremely mindful of, and whether or not we actually see a daily close down into that level, and also be keeping an eye on our volume down here. But yeah, with that is going to go ahead and wrap up the show for today on Bitcoin Cash, BCH on that ticker. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you have not done so just yet. As well as don't forget to drop me a comment down in the comment sections below. Don't forget to reach out over on Twitter at @coin_trades is the handle over there. Always love and look forward to chatting with each and every one of you over on Twitter and X. That is going to wrap it up for now, though. Do appreciate all the continued love and support. Does mean so much. Stay safe. Take care, everyone. I'll catch you back in the next video.